Welcome. I'm Jennifer Firestein, Associate State Director for AARP Michigan. We're glad you're joining us for AARP's virtual Learn a Latte. Learn a Latte is our Wednesday morning speaker series where we invite you to sit back, relax over a cup of coffee, tea, or latte, and learn something new. Over the next half hour, our guest speaker will share how to make your money grow in retirement. People often fear that they will outlive their money, so this will be a good conversation to help people plan accordingly. If you have questions, ask them in the comment section and we'll answer them throughout the presentation. This is being recorded and you'll have the opportunity to access it here on the AARP Michigan Facebook page, and that way you can watch it again or share it with others. Joining me today is Matthew Hogue. Matthew is a financial advisor with Raymond James and Associates. He holds several licenses, including a Series 7 and 66, along with insurance licenses for life, health, accident, and annuities. He's also gone beyond by learning a professional designation as an accredited asset management specialist, which helps him guide his clients down the path to retirement. As a financial advisor, his passion to help others drives him to make sure that his clients' prosperity is his top priority. Matthew is a very involved professional in the West Michigan community. He enjoys woodworking, rock and ice climbing, snow sports, paddling, and exploring life with his daughters. So Matt, let's get things kicked off.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited. Thanks for having me today. So, as Jennifer said, if you have questions, put it in the chat. My job today is to help you come with some more knowledge and just come out a more knowledgeable investor of ways to make sure that you can live the retirement that you want. And the big thing that we're going to talk about holistically is how to build that retirement plan and things that you want to consider. So there's no magic fund that's going to make you a billionaire or anything like that. I use sound principles and fundamentals that we've always used in the financial industry, and by making personalized plans that are important for everybody. So let's start exploring that. So when it comes to retirement, that's a foundation for your future. I mean, that's something that you really need to explore and we need to talk about. And it can be scary. I mean, to a lot of people, getting to the end of that can be a maze. And so there's several things that we need to consider, and concerns that you might have. A lot of people ask me, what's the future of Social Security? We're losing pension plans, and a lot of employers are just doing simple retirement plans. What about the rising cost of healthcare? And I think developing a retirement plan is going to help you better understand the risks that are involved with those and better understand how to make your money go further for you so that you can live the retirement that you want. Now, the one thing that we found is that, this next generation of people that are about to retire are baby boomers, want an active and fulfilling retirement. In retirement, it's a major lifestyle and attitude change. Maybe you started working when you were 10 or 11 years old, mowing grass, babysitting, and suddenly you're not working anymore. And you've had a steady income your entire life. And you're like, oh my gosh, that is scary. I mean, it is. Suddenly you have this steady thing coming in, you have retirement benefits, you have healthcare benefits with work, and suddenly those are gone and you're on your own. And you've had them your entire life. And so you need to take some time to sit back, as much as it's an exciting new stage in life, to sit back and consider those different things that are going to be important to you and that you're going to need to cover.
Yeah,
Like
retirement
many of us,
can often feel like the wild, wild west, right? That all of a sudden it's like there's so much opportunity and it can be overwhelming and daunting when people step into retirement.
For sure, 100%. And that's the biggest concern that a lot of people have is, oh my God, is the fixed income part where they're like, I was making a paycheck and now I'm not, and I have to live off the money that I saved. And how do I make sure that lasts as long as I need it to?
Exactly.
And I'm going to tell you that's going to take some, obviously, money, but it's also going to take forethought as well. So this retirement is a new you. It's not your parents' retirement. Cue my funny slide. So let's talk about your vision for retirement. You got some big questions that you need to ask yourself. And there's several things that you're going to need to consider. So let's explore 4 questions that you're going to want to ask. First one is, when do you want to retire? This is very important because it can determine how much money you're going to have. If you retire a little bit early, you might not have saved it as enough as you want to live the lifestyle you want. So you might have to limit what you're doing. So it's always a give and take. How long do you need your money to last? A lot of people are like, well, my parents only lived to 78. I don't plan on living much longer. But with advances in medicine today, most people are living into their 80s, and at least in a couple retiring at 65. One of you definitely will live to 85 based on statistics. So that's something you need to consider, is how long do you need it to last? What are your goals? What are your aspirations? What does retirement look like to you? I have people that the retirement to them is going fishing in the morning, coming back in the afternoon, drinking a gin and tonic on their front porch, and doing the same thing the next day. And I have other retirees and clients that they want to travel the world. They want to see what they were not able to see when they were working. And those are 2 different costs that you need to think about. And then lastly, what challenges are you going to face? It could be housing, it could be medical. There's a lot of different things you need to consider. And having a plan for those can make sure that the unexpected doesn't freak you out. So when it comes to building your plan, we need to establish some priorities here. And sometimes it's a give and take and some choices that you have to think about. And, if you retire sooner, you might have lower projected regular income just because you didn't have enough time for your 401k or pension to grow. Maybe you took your Social Security early, which we'll talk about as we go into this presentation. Maybe you continue working for several more years so you don't retire as soon as you want, but you have a lot more money to do the things that you want.
So, Matt, it's really important then for people to have the end game in mind, have that plan in mind, because you don't know where you're going until you don't know how to get there until you know where you're going. So it's really important that that people make those plans and put it down on paper, what they want their retirement to look like.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, the sooner you do it. I mean, I don't know if you have anybody in their 20s on, but if you started doing these plans when you were younger, it's going to change, obviously, as you get closer to retirement, but you're going to have a more solid path to retirement. That's really what I tell people. I love building retirement plans because I can watch people walk down this path so they can suddenly have a goal that they've established. Especially if they're younger, they can know, all right, I'm putting away enough money or I'm not putting away enough money, so that we can actually change that when they're younger. Now, if you're about to retire in retirement, don't worry about it. All right. You just might have to have a conversation that might be a little bit more difficult. And I don't mean to say that to scare you, but reality is in there, and you need to have an open and honest conversation with yourself and your advisor to make sure that what you want to do in life, that you're able to afford, and that money will last as long as you need it to. So some other priorities, we'll go through a few more here. Do you want to maximize your income through your portfolio through retirement? And what that means is, do you want to use all your money for yourself so you can live the retirement you want? Or do you want to leave some to friends, family, maybe a charity that's important to you? Some other priorities that you want to look at is, maybe it's purchasing a second home. Maybe you want to live someplace warm. Maybe you want to get a vacation home on the beach so that the grandkids can come hang out and play in the water. Maybe it's reserving funds for some unexpected medical expenses down the road that you have to look at. And I'm going to tell you right now, every time I build a plan, they are personalized. Everybody's idea of retirement is different. Everybody's lifestyle has been a little bit different. Everybody's family history, DNA, number of different things are a little bit different. And that's why plans should be personalized. If you have an advisor who's just shoehorning in the one that he does or she does with everybody, it's not going to be the right one for you. need to
And when
sit
you
down.
look at these two questions, like these two options, would you prefer a second home or to cover medical expenses? You're talking about fun versus functional. And I imagine there has to be a balance of both as well.
There is. And I would tell you right now, especially if you didn't start doing this plan early in life, there can be some real trade-offs, right? Or if you've never made a plan and you're well into retirement, sometimes you'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm looking at my withdrawal rate is really affecting my income. And there's several different risks that you need to look at there. I mean, there can be purchasing power risk depending on what you have it invested in. There can be market risk where you have to be careful with, health risk. There's a number of things that you have to have an open and honest conversation with yourself, with your spouse, and with your advisor. So let's get into some of the questions that you need to ask yourself when we start to build a retirement plan. And so there's three things we really need to talk about. The first one is, what are the basic things that you're going to need in retirement? And these are the basic things that you need today. Housing. You have a car, so you got to pay maintenance. Maybe you got a car payment. You got to put gas in the car. You got to pay insurance. You got to pay insurance on your house. Obviously, as you retire, you might have to, you're going to have co-pays where you have Medicare. You got the Medigap that's involved with there, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But there's some costs that are involved with there, and those can be some basic ones. Some people giving to charity or their church is a basic necessity for them, and some people it's not. So you need to assess what your basic needs are that you have to pay for in retirement. All right. And then next, what do you want? All right. And so there are wants, and maybe these wants are, I want to buy a second home. I want to see my family on a regular basis. Maybe I want to travel to Europe, once a year. I want to go. And those can be things that are above and beyond those basic everyday needs that you have. And then lastly, what will help you get there? All right. And that can be a number of things. What's your income source to help you get there? And the big thing there is what's that reliable income, right? Social Security can be part of that. A pension can be part of that. There'll be a number of things that can be part of that reliable income that's going to help you cover those first two questions. So let's identify where that reliable income from. Those things that are going to pay the basic needs that you must have covered. A lot of times there's a pension, all right? Especially some companies, I would tell you most companies are doing away with pensions now and moving to a 401k or a similar thing like that, or 457 thrift savings plan if you're in the government, or wherever it might be, a 403b if you're in nonprofits. All those are very similar, but there might be a pension. Social Security is going to be part of that, and having a conversation of when you take that is going to be vitally important. Part-time employment might be part of those basic needs. And sometimes part-time employment happens while you're in retirement. I had a friend of mine where his wife made him go back to get a part-time job because he loved the golf 3 times a week. And she said, well, if you're gonna keep golfing 3 times a week, you need to find a way to pay for it. So he went to work for Menard for a little while.
Right. And the other thing too is people oftentimes they go into retirement because they're tired of the 9-to-5 job, and they go into retirement and they realize that they're missing something, and so they still want to be relevant, they still want to be involved, but they just don't necessarily want the demands and the structure of 9-to-5. So I know people that are very much looking for part-time flexible jobs in retirement so that they can still get out, earn a little seed money, but stay relevant as well.
Yeah, I agree. And some people even want to start businesses in retirement. And then our last one is other income. I mean, that could be maybe of rental properties where you're getting a regular income from rental properties. Maybe you're a part owner of a business and you're still getting a kickback from being the owner of that business. Maybe you're in a partnership that gives you some kickback. So there's some other incomes that are steady coming in on regularly, and you can kind of count on the amount of money that's coming in to do that. So next, let's talk a little bit about Social Security. Because for most people, Social Security is going to be the major source of reliable income when you retire. So it's prudent to maximize those benefits. So let's consider a few things to help you make the right decisions so that you can maximize your Social Security. The biggest one is your age of when you should draw benefits. In a slide here in a minute, I'm going to show you a little bit of graph, and that basically shows you the difference between withdrawing at your full retirement age when you can actually pull it at 62, or if you wait till 70 to take it. And those can be two very different numbers. If you took it at 62 as opposed to 70, it can be almost double. So you really got to think about when you want to take that. The longer you wait to take it, the better. Your job. How did your earnings impact your benefits? there's a taxable nature to that you have to be careful too. So the benefits that you get from Social Security, along with other retirement income, those can actually boost your taxable rate. A lot of people think taxes will be lower in retirement. That's not always true. And the reason I say that is a lot of times when you retire, you've paid off your house, so you don't get that reduction. Kids are gone, so you don't get that deduction. And then finally, you were putting money maybe into a retirement plan where that was reducing the amount of money that was being taxed because you were deferring those taxes. And now suddenly you have to take those taxes out, or those funds out, and you have to pay taxes on them because you never paid taxes on them before. So you really need to think about your taxes and how you withdraw your money and use your money, and how Social Security ties into that. Your marriage, all right? How does your spouse and the survivor benefits work when it comes to Social Security? And this can also be another question you might want to look at in your pension too. So if you have a pension, usually there's several different dollar amounts that can come into you. If you're just paying for yourself, it's usually higher. If you add your spouse to it, it might be a little bit lower, but it covers both of you for the remainder of your life. If you have a pension and you die and you want your spouse to continue to get the rest of it, that can also lower it too. So there's a lot of different things that you have to consider with Social Security and a few other things in there as well.
Right. In AARP, we encourage people to wait till they're 70 to get the full benefit, but we also recommend that people talk to a financial advisor because, like you said, there are so many different caveats in making sure that, do you need the money at the age of 62? Can you hold?
Uh-oh. I don't know if we lost Jennifer or me, but I'll keep going. So this was the slide I want to talk to you guys about when it came to Social Security benefits. And so this is the difference between monthly benefits that you might have. So conventional wisdom says as soon as you retire, start taking your benefits. I don't think that's, to be honest, I don't know if I would call that conventional wisdom. There's different ways that you can think about that would be smart. So if you're retired at 62, there's things you got to consider because you're not eligible for healthcare benefits from the government yet. So that can eat into the amount of money that you'd have to pay for that. But this is the slide I was talking about. If you took it this is assuming a full retirement age of 66, and you would get $1,000 at 66. But if you took it at 62, it'd only be $750. But if you waited another 8 years, it can be almost double. So that's why I said you need to think about that. And maybe you do retire at 62, but you could also wait to take those Social Security benefits if you have your other expenses covered. Or maybe you're waiting to you retire at 66, but you wait to take those at 70. A lot of different conversations that you need to have with yourself there. And I would tell you right now, don't make the mistakes that other retirees have made. One of the biggest things in retirement is managing your money, all right? Again, we talked about how you're not going to have a steady paycheck anymore, and you're going to have to live off the money that you have coming in from all those different income streams that we talked about. And so there's some things that you need to think about when managing your money. We talked about longevity, all right? And a couple that retires at 65 together, there's an 85% chance that one of them is going to live past the age of 85. Again, this is why we say this is not your parents' retirement. The advances that we have in medicine are really making people live longer. There's actually an expectation that my daughters that are younger, they're under 10, that they might live to be in the 120s with the advances in medicine. And that's insane to think about. If they're retired at 70, that means they have to have 50 years of money to help them get to retirement. Maybe they're going to retire later because they'll live a longer, healthier life, but we don't know what that's going to look like. Inflation, we call this purchasing power risk. So sometimes you put investments in different places and you have to make sure that it's earning enough money to keep up with inflation. And what we mean by purchasing power risk is the amount of money that, let's say, $1,000 would buy, the amount of that $1,000 would buy 10 years ago as opposed to what it'd buy 10 years from now into the future are two very different things. And so you need to think about, is my money keeping up with inflation? And unfortunately, in today's low bond return market, the interest rates are so low that a lot of times we're not even getting close to inflation. So you have to use some different techniques to make sure that you're keeping up with that. Spending and withdrawals. This is that part where you're living off of fixed income, and you really got to make sure that you're making sure that you're withdrawing it at a rate that'll make sure that it will last as long as you need it to. I'm going to tell you right now, building this plan, coming up with this journey, going to these goals, and turning your retirement into reality, is vitally important. So let's take some time to carefully consider a personalized plan for you. So let's talk about your health. All right, this is the retirement wild card. It's really hard to tell, right? You've had a healthy life. You've kept yourself healthy. You've dieted right. You've eaten the right things. Maybe you're a little bit dumber when you're younger, but hey, who wasn't? But now we're getting to a spot where we might have to consider our bodies aren't working quite as well as they used to. And when you hit 65, you can be eligible for Medicare, about 65. So planning for your health and how you're going to pay for those expected and unexpected expenses are going to be something that you really have to consider. That's one of those essential needs that we talked about at the beginning. So let's talk about factors you need to consider, because healthcare coverage in today's world is an essential need. Medicare, you need to know what it does and what it does not cover. And I'm going to tell you right now, they're expecting medical costs to rise by 6.3% annually. And I don't know if that's ever going to slow down or stop. I hope it does, because inflation isn't anywhere near that. So it's actually moving faster than our money is growing. So that's something that we have to do about. And you have to make sure that you're not going to be blindsided by some out-of-pocket healthcare costs in retirement. And there's a range that many people have said that happen about the cost that you might have for healthcare in retirement. And they're saying some are retiring at 65. The range is anywhere from $197,000 out of pocket. This is out of pocket that you would pay, to $550,000 in out of pocket costs that you might incur from the time that you retire to what we call end of plan, which is just a nice way of saying when you die. And so you need to consider what that cost might be. And many people think that Medicare costs everything, but it doesn't. And that's why we have Medigap, which is some of those out-of-pocket expenses that you want to get covered. And I'm going to tell you, those are I'm licensed to sell it, and I make sure I go to a professional that only handles that stuff, because it's so involved, and there is so much that is involved in those different parts of Medicare and Medigap that you really need to have somebody that's what they do for a living is handling that to help you understand those costs. And then the other one is insurance. You might want to consider long-term care insurance. I sometimes think it can be a little cost prohibitive, and there's some other ways that you might want to consider doing it. But it's definitely something that you need to consider.
So long-term care insurance is really, could be its own presentation, because there's so much information about that. So we really encourage people, if they're interested or want to learn more, to talk to a financial advisor about that, because there are a lot of caveats to long-term care insurance.
Yeah, and I'll talk a little bit more about long-term care insurance here, but also talk about another way that you can protect your assets as well. I had to take out a slide, but we'll talk about it really briefly. That really involves trusts and making sure that your estate is set up right. And I'm going to tell you, when I was younger, I thought trusts were only for rich people. No, I think everybody needs to have something in there, because that can protect your money. So again, we talked about how Medicare doesn't really cover everything. And one of the things it doesn't cover is long-term care. And so those are some things that you need to think about, because long-term care insurance can do several things. One, it can protect your assets, and that asset could be your home, that could be your retirement funds, it could be a number of different things. Because while you can get some help from the government, they're not going to help you until you really don't have any money left. And to be honest, that's not really fair to you. If you've been smart, saved up all your money, and suddenly the person that wasn't smart is getting all these healthcare benefits, but you were smart and saved your money and planned for your retirement. And so again, long-term care insurance can be something that can be in there. Provide options for quality of care. Unfortunately, reality is sometimes you got to move to a long-term care living facility, maybe assisted nursing home. Those can be $80,000 a year, or even somebody that's helping you out with a home health aid. Those can be $230 a day. And you want to make sure that you have the right quality of care that you want. You don't want to move into a nursing facility where you got to have a roommate. I mean, we're not in college anymore. We've moved past that. There can be some stress involved with this too. As you get older and maybe you're not as healthy, they're concerned about, oh no, is grandpa not going to be here anymore? Dad not going to be here anymore, or mom? And so that's stressful for them. And they also have to think about, the stress that they have of maybe providing care for you. So it can relieve that stress from a family. And then lastly, you can preserve your independence, your dignity, and again, that financial freedom that we're really striving for. So make sure that your financial advisor has this as part of their plan for you. And I would ask you also to, talk to your financial advisor about maybe a trusted lawyer that they like to work with when it comes to having estate planning, where trust can be part of that to protect your assets while you can still get care. There's a great conversation that you can have there. So again, make it personal. I know we kind of skipped that slide ahead, but make sure that you do everything in there, and make sure it's a holistic process that manages your risk and develop your retirement income. So let's talk about building.
I'm just curious. So like the confidence score, being in that confidence zone, where should you be in that confidence zone?
That's a good question. So I'll walk through this, and at the end, I'll get to what I kind of feel that is. And I'm going to tell you right now, this is Raymond James, how we talk about it when we talk about our confidence zone. I'm going to tell you, most financial advisors are going to have some software that they're going to have. The terminology might be different, but really it's about making sure that the money is lasting as long as you need it to and give you the confidence. I'm going to tell you right now, nobody's going to give you 100% because there are no guarantees, unfortunately, when it comes to the market. The best that I can get these when I help people is 99%. That means they're saving a lot of money and doing really well, right? Our goal is to get everybody about 85% and above. So let's talk about how we build this retirement puzzle and get you into that confidence zone so that you can feel confident that your money's going to last as long as you need it. So we talked about that first one there, where we got reliable income where it pays for your needs. And we've got those identified. We know where that money's going. We know that it's going to be all in there. And we know that we're going to limit the surprises because we've already planned for them, right? We hope to God those surprises that we planned for don't happen, but we're in there and we're prepared for them if they do. And that's the key part about those needs. The next thing is we're going to talk about those wants, right? And that could be that second home. That could be that traveling, once or twice a year. And so we need to make sure we fill that gap between the needs and the wants and the wishes, right? And so we're going to have a talk about what current inventory, and what by inventory, I mean, what other assets besides the reliable income, or maybe above and beyond the reliable income, do we have to play with once we've covered those basic expenses that can help cover those wants and those wishes, all right? And our first goal really is to make sure that we're secure for the next 20 to 30 years, depending on how long you think you need your retirement money to last. And that's our main priority when we build a retirement plan. So once we've identified all that, we want to determine the support that's needed, and also sustainable withdrawal rate. What I mean by that, that's how much money you're taking out combined with the growth that you have in your invested assets, or your people that are maybe renting from you, or whatever that other income sources can be. And then, Jennifer asked about that confidence zone. And I would tell you right now, getting in that 85% is key. And we run a Monte Carlo simulation, which runs thousands of simulations what the market can do to see if your money will last. Other assets that you want to consider: risk management, benefits to others. I know we talked about that, so that's something that's important. So let's talk about some other ways to mitigate taxes. So we talked about employee retirement plans, and a lot of those have to do with employee 401ks, 403bs, 457s, thrift savings plans in the government, a number of other things. If you're self-employed, maybe it can be an IRA, maybe you have an annuity, several different things. But those are really designed to mitigate taxes because you're putting money away pre-tax. And so those are ways to make sure that the more money goes in your pocket, not Uncle Sam's. So that's something you definitely want to consider while you're doing that. The other thing that you want to consider while you're doing that, and Jeff, if you don't mind going to the next slide, is determining which of those accounts do you want to withdraw from first. All right, so when we're taking a look at these out of pocket, because a lot of times that can determine the taxable rate, because it can be first in, first out. There's a number of different things that the IRS looks at, and you're going to want to talk to your financial advisor about which ones you want to take the money out of, to make sure that you mitigate your income, maybe some capital gains in there if it's a taxable account. So having that conversation is vitally important. And I'm going to tell you that, the difference between a taxable, and feel free to move on to the next slide there, the difference between the taxable rate and and ones that are pre-tax and post-tax is really indicative here in this slide. This assumes that it's just saying if we put $10,000 away, and it talks about the timeline between you put that away and the different years. So the bottom is the years that are in there. And this is talking about a kind of a 9% return over time. And what you can see is the gray is taxable, and then the blue is tax deferred. And so as you see, as time goes on, a tax deferred account can actually grow faster than a taxable account. And the only real difference there is a taxable account generally, unless it's a Roth, you can actually get access to the money a little bit quicker. And as a result, it might not grow as quickly over time, right? And there's also some taxes that are involved in there as well. But the longer you wait, the more money you can have. And that's the value of having an IRA or 403B, any of those tax deferred plans that are important to you. Now let's talk about some last things here, because I know we're kind of getting close to the end. What's important when selecting advisors? So there's a form that just came out last year called Form CRS that every advisor is required to give to somebody when they're talking to them about coming on board. It's really helping you become a more savvy investor. So there's 7 things I want you to consider when you're looking at bringing a financial advisor on board. So the first one is going to be retirement expertise. All right, have they worked with people in the past? Do they know how to build retirement plans, and do they know how to make sure you can make sure you have a good withdrawal rate that's right for you? 2, tax planning strategies, making sure that you're mitigating, how much you're going to give to Uncle Sam. The government's going to want their money, but there's ways that you can be smart about it to make sure that you mitigate how much taxes that you have to pay. 3, having an arsenal of products. You want somebody that has access to everything. And I'm going to tell you right now, try to find an advisor maybe that isn't trying to just sell the products of their company. I think if you have somebody that is non-captured, and that means they don't have to sell a specific product, they can go into the marketplace, look at 10 or 15 different places. They're going to find the right product for you too. So ask them about that too. 4, online access. Making sure that you can get online and you can see what they're doing. You can see your growth, or, unfortunately the market does go up and down, but it goes up and down, and it goes up at long term. But, wanting to mitigate those and seeing what that's doing over the long term or even the short term is important in retirement. 5, cash management. Cash is going to be the thing that you're going to be using to live your day-to-day life in retirement, and you want to make sure that you have some cash management options for you. Number 6, a collaborative process. You're going to want to make sure that they're working with you and not just shoehorning you into a one-size-fits-all plan, because retirement is not one-size-fits-all. It's your plan, your lifestyle, what you want to do in retirement. And then finally, number 7, an investment philosophy that is in line with yours. Maybe you like risk a little bit more. Maybe you don't like risk at all. Maybe you like to invest in funds that are from companies that are worried about the environment. Maybe you're looking at companies that are have some social issues that are important to them and are important to you, and you want to invest in only those. So there's several different ways that you can go with that investment philosophy.
And it's important to find a good advisor as well, just because you want somebody that matches up with what you're trying to accomplish, because it is a relationship.
I agree. I like to become friends with all my clients so I get to know them. So, and partly the reason being is I have to ask them very intimate questions. If you're asking us, if a stranger is asking you intimate questions, it can be scary, right? Especially when it comes to money. A lot of us have not talked about money most of our life, and that can be a very scary thing to talk about to somebody that you've never met before. So getting to know them, having a conversation, I think is vitally important. So let's talk about I got just one real important slide I want to go to next, and that's talking about 4 ways that we talked about making your money grow further. And these are the minimum things to make sure that you do these 4 things with your retirement plan as you get, even now, if you're young, do it now. If you're in retirement, it's not too late, so don't worry about it. We can still do this. So 1, let's build a retirement plan that's right for you. Secondly, you're going to make sure that you're doing regular reviews of the investments that are in that plan, and I would say to do a regular review of that plan to make sure it still works for you. As life changes, you're going to want to do that. I require all my clients to do a minimum of an annual review of their investments and their retirement to make sure that they're still on track, and that the plan that we built is still the right plan for them, because things change in life, right? Protecting yourself with the right products, and this can be life insurance, this could be long-term care insurance, but finding the right one that's right for you financially, one that's right for whatever risk you're trying to mitigate as well. And this can be Medicare, Medigap, any of those. And then finally, I'm going to tell you, have an estate plan. It's not just for the wealthy. I think it's a smart way to go. You can protect some of your assets for yourself, for future generations, whatever is most important to you. So Those are 4 things I'm going to tell you to do.
And Matt, it's never too late to start. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I just did a retirement plan for an 82-year-old. So
Okay.
it's never too late to start. They never had one and were very concerned with the amount of money that they had left it was going to last. But the nice thing is we were able to get that in there, make them feel more confident. We did have to make some lifestyle change adjustments because they were in their 80s, but we had to have that conversation. But they felt much better that money was going to last as long as they needed it to.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah. All right, good information, a lot of information. Yeah. And if people want more information and they have any questions, they can reach out to you directly.
Oh, so, yeah.
Yep. Okay, perfect. So people can reach Matthew there with the information that you can see on the screen. And thank you for joining us for Learn a Latte. We do Learn a Latte live the first and third Wednesday of each month at 10 a.m. For the month of May, our first Learn a Latte will be on fitness, and our second one will be on maximizing the opportunity to have a good virtual doctor visit. So we've moved into that world of virtual telehealth, and so it's your opportunity to learn more about that. And we encourage you to check out all of the events that we're doing here on AARP. And you can go to aarp.org/MI to get the full calendar of virtual events. So thank you.